is this all a simulation? Or are we in a matrix? How do we think about this? Because what's weird is the further we go, the more the ridiculous things now become less ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean, talking about simulations and matrices, if we were 5 years ago, people think you're batshit crazy, and now people are like, it kind of feels like this might be the way. What do you think, Andy?
Well, I think I first encountered that, again, I was probably like 18, 19, and like a little column in New Scientist or something. And I like read it, and I just like immediately closed the magazine and like tried to delete it from my brain, because I was like, man, if I like go into this, I'm just going to have a psychotic break or something. I can't deal with that. And then, over the more recent years, I've been coming back to the idea with a little more like, oh, maybe it could be a simulation, like if we were...
Or is it quantum states? Are there multiple worlds the other way?
So those are both like the spaces I come to rest like quite frequently, is like either we're, navigating some like branching timeline thing, or if it's a simulation, then in order for the simulation to happen, like the conditions that enabled the simulation would have to come to pass. If the simulation was like an ancestor simulation where, say, a future version of humanity is trying to like delve into history and is like simulating what the Earth was.
I've kind of built a thesis that that's what UFOs are.
Oh yeah, don't even get me started on UFOs.
That's what I think it's ourselves coming back to look at ourselves. Something like that.
Well, it could well be. It feels like, the little orbs, I'm like, they could
Ryan's
just be
laughing
like...
at the ridiculousness of this. But we all kind of believe it, right?
Don't get me started on UFOs as well. I think we're probably all in similar space. They're fascinating.
I know, I've gone down that rabbit hole, which is a rabbit hole I laughed at for years. And I'm like, no, this is quantum.
Can't laugh at
that and ghosts.
Hearing.
It's all the same thing.
Oh, there's some weird stuff happening. There's some really weird stuff happening, and it feels like the synchronicities have just been ramping up this year.
Which is why the Fermi paradox exists, because it's us. We're not going to find anything else because we are everything in this much larger contextualization.
Yeah. And I think that's, in some ways it becomes like a religious belief after a while, but it is quite grounding sometimes, like a grounding way of like thinking about what if this is a simulation, is that, well, probably the people simulating us are in a simulation themselves. And so it's just simulations all the way down or up. So it doesn't really matter, like, at the end of the day. But then there's the other piece is that, if we are in a simulation, then the actions we take, there is some kind of like form of like predestination. So you kind of feel a little bit held by the future, knowing that the things that you're doing now must have come to pass in order.
Which is the kind of no free will argument that some people put forward, that we don't actually have free will, that we're all part of something else. And whether that's hyperstition.
And that's where, the multiple branching timelines thing, it can be quite grounding. It was like, well, maybe we get to pick which timeline we end up on. And when I speak to language models, the main modality I use to interact with them is not like a linear conversation. I use a interface which has forking conversations. And so at each point I can like re-roll 5-10 different answers and branch out. And but as I'm doing that, especially when I take that stuff and I like train it into models.
So you're kind of splitting a brain and taking it in multiple paths at the same time and seeing where those...
Yeah, exactly. Like exploring the interior of like a model's mind. But then as I explore the interior down like a particular branch or a timeline of it, if I then go and like sample all of that data and use it to train a model, and then that model becomes agentic in the world, then by the very act of like picking these forking paths at every point in interactions with a model is like voting for a particular timeline to come to pass. And so I think being able to see all these branches at once when I'm just like having really weird esoteric conversations with AIs is like kind of grounding in a posture towards reality or weird multiversal stuff that may or may not be happening.
Hey, thanks for sticking around to the end. Look, if you enjoyed it, hit the subscribe button and check out the video here on the right-hand side. I'm sure you'll enjoy that one as well. And if you're ready for more, go to realvision.com/join. I'll see you there.